minutes to start coming in the room. Started freezing up for a second there. Everybody got a couple of people coming in already. Like I said, if there was going to be some breaking news, if there was any major news, I was going to stream. So here we are. Give everybody a few minutes to come in and we'll get started. Happy Friday, Joshua. Amma, what's up to you? Good to see you. Emily says karma is a real B. It's a little Zen Master. What's going on, my friend? Some reason your avatars aren't showing up, nor the location that you are tweeting or sharing your comments from, but I can still see your comments. Maybe that'll change later on. I'm not sure. But wow, we got 1,000 people already. That's love. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I'm going to do my part and share. So if you don't mind, while I share, if you would take a second to click the like button. Click the like button. It's already early. We already been there. But click the like button and the share button wherever you're sharing from. And we're trying to hit 100,000 people on YouTube soon. So if you don't mind following me on YouTube, subscribing on YouTube, and we're going to get started. I want to know your thoughts, what you're thinking, how you're feeling about this whole situation. We had a late night stream, really late night. I think I didn't get, well, might as well call it early morning. I didn't get to sleep last night until 5:30, around 6 o'clock. And so, hey, Mushroom. Again, I apologize because my system is not bringing in your name, your avatar, or it normally brings in your avatar as well as where you're sharing from. So everybody's anonymous tonight. I have your name in your comment, though. So wow, people are sharing it all over Facebook already. That's love. I really appreciate you guys spending this time with me. And we'll get to talk about it in a few moments. Donald Trump was airlifted to Walter Reed Hospital. And some reports are saying, I have to find a couple of confirmations for this. So I can't confirm this, but I received a couple of messages saying that Donald Trump is having difficulty breathing. Last night's stream, the late night stream, was really sort of rooted in a little anger that I had at conservatives trying to lecture us about being kind and being gentle and being gracious to Donald Trump. No, the answer is no. Let justice do what it's going to do, if anything. Because here's what I like people to think about. If Donald Trump survives and he goes through a very difficult process and he actually experiences some really bad symptoms, but he survives, do you think it would be enough to change his character in terms of how reckless he's been with COVID-19 and how his actions have directly contributed to 205,000 other people millions of people going through what he's getting ready to go through, and 205,000 of those people dying? Do you think having that kind of experience could change his character? And the reason I pose it like that is because if we firmly agree that it would not change his character, then that means that he is so hardened, he is so fixated on his ego and his own agenda that dealing with a severe case of COVID-19 wouldn't even change his character and his disposition. Like and what would be amazing is if he goes through this, he learns from this, and he comes back from this and instantly does the right thing. He's not. I mean, if he does, I'll be glad to eat my words, because that'd be better for everybody, right? That would be better for everybody. But I don't believe that he will. I do not believe that he will. And so when people ask me to be kind and be nice and be, show him grace, why? When he would show us none. That is the asymmetrical fight that I always talk about. Got a couple super chats. I want to get those in here, but my producer's on deck, so I'll start reading all the super chats as they come in. The asymmetrical fight that I always talk about is the fact that conservatives will have us pulling down our negative ads like the Biden campaign has done out of respect for the sickness of the president. While if the roles were reversed, they would be hitting all the layups, slam dunks. They would run up the scoreboard if the roles were reversed. Donald Trump would laugh at Joe Biden but Joe Biden had contracted COVID-19. And in fact, I'm concerned about it. I know he tested negative, Joe Biden, but it's a good possibility. I mean, there's a 2 to 3 week incubation period. And he was on stage with that man for an hour and a half. They exchanged some breath, some air. So I'm concerned about Joe. And I know if the shoes were reversed, he would absolutely mock Joe Biden and would be cruel. In fact, we know this is true because just 2 weeks ago tonight, conservatives celebrated the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. They celebrated her death. So, I'm sorry. Don't expect something from me that you're not willing to give. And in fact, I'm having to mature past my desire to be kind to all people and be willing to compartmentalize my empathy and withhold it from people who would manipulate me based on me being empathetic. And I suggest the Democratic Party learn how to do that really quick if they don't already know. Jorge says, I lost it. Wait, it's gone. Maureen said it was okay for them to celebrate when RBG died. They can go jump in the lake to be kind. Absolutely. I absolutely hate that I can't get your picture, your avatar, or where you're sharing from. But shout out to everybody on Twitch, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And right now we are at 2,117 people. Wow. Great day in the morning. Realize that many people want to hang out with me. 1,200 of you are on Facebook alone. So much love to you all. I want to be able to answer just about any question that I can and talk about it the way we talk about it. This man doesn't deserve any sympathy from Fred. I agree. We have to be bold enough. Here it is. This is my saying that it's hard to live by, and you also get tested at times like this. When you can be kind, this is my motto, when you can be kind, be kind. But when you can't, take no prisoners. And we are in a season where we cannot afford to be kind to conservatism. We cannot afford to be kind to Trumpism because it is an existential threat to our democracy. And anyone who doesn't see that is either blinded by Trumpism or uselessly pedantic and uselessly an equivocator, someone who would try to draw an equivalence between Joe Biden and the Democratic Party and what the Republican Party has become, which is a death cult. And I don't think that there's at any time in the history of mankind where, in the history of this country, rather, surely in the history of mankind, there's an example. But in the history of this country, I don't know if we have as clear and as precise difference as we see in the death cult of the Republican Party, specifically as it pertains to COVID-19. There is no comparison. You want to talk about economic issues? Okay, there's some equivalencies that we can draw, right? You want to talk about social issues? There's a lot of jargon, but there may be some equivalencies there. You want to talk about foreign policy? Equivalencies all day. Imperialism, just equivalencies across the board. Military industrial complex, equivalencies across the board. I mean, they're all in locks. But if you want to talk about how carelessly and callously they just disposed of over 200,000 lives because of the ego of one man, you cannot compare. Because I believe that at least 175,000 people would be alive today if it were not for Donald Trump being president. And that is the clear and present danger. That is the most immediate threat that we are facing. That is a threat to everyone's lives. Like whether you agree with my politics or not, whether you disagree with me from the right or you disagree with me from the left. There's plenty of people who disagree with me from both directions. I don't think you can, no, I'm confident that you cannot disagree with me when I say that the way Donald Trump has managed or mismanaged COVID-19 is a direct threat to your actual life and the life of your loved ones and your family and your friends. Like, we could die. On our bad days, we have upwards of 1,000 or more people who die. We're between 600 and 1,000 people dying every single day. So even if you see that the Democratic Party or Joe Biden is the same as Donald Trump on foreign policy, I probably would have to within the margin of error, I may have to agree with you. Like, I think we'd get back in the Iran deal. I think the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that was negotiated by Secretary of State John Kerry and Barack Obama, I thought it was actually a good deal to bring Iran into the international community. And I think Donald Trump was a moron to get us out of that deal and to undermine it. So there's a big exception there. But in terms of, in general, American imperialism, yeah, I mean, there's a consistency across all parties. But in terms of like COVID-19, in terms of tax policy, look at the tax breaks that Donald Trump gave himself in 2017. So there are some meaningful differences, but there's not one that is as clear as how dangerous Donald Trump has been with regard to COVID-19. And so it is only justice. It's only right, in my opinion. It is only right that Donald Trump is where he is right now. You guys are wilding in the chat room. Trumpers are worrying now. I bet you a lot of them are worried. A lot of the people who were on the front row as he was like talking and spitting, and all you can see is just COVID-19 coming out of his mouth. Just, and all of them like, oh, we love you, Trump. You're my king, Trump. We worship you, Trump. Just catching it in their eyes. Oh, I mean, what did Trump say? It is what it is. What did he say about Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Elections have consequences. Well, you know what? Stupidity has consequences too, champ. Let's see what this says. Michelle, I don't know what platform you're on, Michelle, but she says, maybe the God that evangelicals preach about is real and really pissed at the GOP. My assertion is that he is real and he is pissed at the GOP because they're anything but like him. But that's just my little corner of the universe in terms of what I believe. A lot of beliefs in the room, and that's what's super cool. What's super cool about our room, how we hang out, is that you guys are cool enough to let me be religious when I'm religious. You're cool enough to let me cuss when I cuss. You're cool enough to let me be humanist when I'm in my humanist mode. And eventually you'll be cool enough to, whenever my wife lets me off of lockdown, we'll do some stargazing and talk about the end of the universe and all that good stuff. So I just like the fact that we can chill and talk about whatever. Let's read some comments from the super chats that we've been getting on YouTube. Hello to Ellie Void. She sent me a super sticker, a cat. Thank you. Ellie Well. I'm sure I should probably know what BIL stands for, but let me just read it. My BIL is alone in a critical care unit, seriously ill with COVID. his wife, brother-in-law, got it. My brother-in-law is alone in a critical care unit, seriously ill with COVID. His wife and daughter are unable to be at his bedside. Trump's lies enable this virus to proliferate and kill 220,000. I won't shed one tear for Trump. Thank you for the super chat and thank you for sharing that. And we are sending well wishes to your brother-in-law. Jim 19 Jimin 95 on YouTube said, "Hey Ben, do you think this is a hoax?" No, I don't. I don't think it's a hoax because it doesn't. It could be. You know what? Let me say this. I think Donald Trump is a sociopath enough to pull off a hoax like this, and I think he has enough flunkies that'll help him pull it off. To that end, I think he has been so careless and callous and disrespectful to the universe. Like, COVID is real and it is a real threat. And in a way, I called it, it was something to be respected. It was something to be treated with respect, not fear, but caution. And Donald Trump not only threw caution to the wind for the American people, leading to the deaths of 200,000 plus, 220, 225,000 people, but he was arrogant enough to think that he was untouchable. So I think the universe had said, we'll see about that. Thanks for keeping us informed minute to minute, Ben, from Kai Allen. Thank you so much for that, Kai. Also from Kai Allen, thank you for threading the needle and addressing that you can be empathetic, good person, but not blindly. Too much is at stake. He doesn't deserve empathy. And honestly, like, empathy is, here's the thing. It's not that empathy makes you vulnerable. I think it's performative empathy that makes you susceptible to the games of your enemies. So let's just be clear. There are people who are enemies of humanity. They are enemies of democracy. I am liberal in the sense that I believe in democracy. Okay. I think that is probably one of the most delineating factors between me and my friends to the left of me. My friends to the left of me who reject some, not all, but a couple people on Twitter today, they're like, the liberalism of democracy. Well, okay. You got me there. You got me dead to rights. I believe in democracy and I have some hope in democracy. Now, if all else fails, we'll deal with it as it fails, but that's neither here nor there. The thing is that as these are the things that I believe in, these are the things that I fight for, I can't allow my empathy to make me vulnerable to people who are the enemies of the very things that I fight for. I would rather we all be sitting around here talking about how we could all prosper and how we could all be in good health, even as our soul, like how we can all self-actualize, have self-actualization, and how we can all, achieve the greatest humanity that we can achieve in our lifetime. The reality of it is that we have enemies who want that. They want that prospering. They want that self-actualization, but they want it for themselves, and they want it for the people that they approve of. And their way to getting it is stepping on top of everybody else. Let's be clear. There are always going to be people amongst us who would step on the backs and the necks of billions of people. They would destroy entire civilizations in order for them to achieve the height of their greatness. It is foolhardy for me to put my empathy and my desire to be empathetic and kind and loving in the position of subservience to that or vulnerable to that. We got to fight. We straight up have to fight. There's levels to this fight, right? But I think the first and the most immediate level is clearly, let's fight the people who are trying to steal democracy. Democracy has not failed completely. And I'm not interested in letting it fail in my generation. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Conservatism is a threat to democracy. They don't believe in democracy. So how foolish would it be of me to prioritize my empathy above the threat that is looming around us? And I mentioned performative empathy because performative empathy says what I need to do is show everybody that I can be loving and kind. That's what makes you vulnerable, right? Versus true empathy, which says, if I am kind to this group, then they will destroy everybody else. So because I have empathy for this greater group, I have to compartmentalize it. I have to set it aside. And whatever happens, you've all seen Rocky 4. I'm not going to say it on air because I got pulled down from Facebook last night. So I'm not going to say it on air, but you say it in the chat room. Let's keep moving. Another super chat arose from Ellie Void. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Infinite Content said, Ben, the Senate Judiciary is 12-10 GOP. 2 of them have the Rona right now. Let's discuss how critical this is for the masses and SCOTUS. So here's the thing. These people are committed even unto death. They will find a way to vote from their deathbeds if it gets that far. So while I think we can make a lot of hay over the fact that they shouldn't and that we should slow this process down, they are so committed to their political agenda that they will, 1, either vote from their dying beds, or 2, actually die and be replaced quickly enough to get Amy Coney Bryant approved. They will let Donald Trump die and they will, replace him with Pence and bring somebody else as a VP, and they will not miss a step. They will make sure that Amy Coney Bryant is approved. The only thing that will probably stop Amy Coney Bryant from being approved is whether or not she caught the Rona. And even then, they might approve her and she'll just be on the bench spreading it. They are committed. Republicans are committed, and their conservative supporters are committed. Kimberly McNaught sent a super chat in. She said, the donors, their overlords, are more likely to get GOP senators to act than Trump. I agree. CMT63 said, love the interview today. And you said ignorance has consequences. Ignorance has consequences. Just like elections have consequences, ignorance has consequences. Sean Erdwin with a super chat. Thank you. Said, hello, karma for Trump. Karma for Trump. Ciro Dave sent in a super chat. I appreciate that donation. Zencat sent in a super sticker that just says that they're tired. I understand. I get it. Conway just tested positive and has symptoms. I'm praying for her daughter. Kellyanne Conway, who was a spokesperson for the president, has been coughing all over her house. So it's very possible that her daughter has it, who was worried about it on social media. So it's too bad for Kellyanne, and I just hope her daughter is safe. Jimin 19 Park sent in a super sticker. Thank you for that. Jordan super chat said, Loeb from Australia, thank John Dragon Daddy for the sub. Okay. Thank you, John Dragon Daddy. Thank you for the sub. That might be the sub over on Twitch. Will I get to in 1 second? Let's see. Simon 8519 says, I don't believe in any form of universal justice. If we existed, we would have to work to make it a reality. I think it exists in so much that the idea exists so long as there is a conscious mind to observe the idea. I think justice is a concept just like hatred and bigotry, love. I think those things are universal. I don't think those are unique to humanity. I think those ideas exist far beyond our existence. I agree with you, however, to the extent that it's something that has to be realized. It's something that has to be acted upon. I do agree with that. But that idea itself pre-exists us and will exist after us, even if there were no conscious minds to observe it. To that end, that's why I feel like it itself has something. There's something to it because it exists whether we exist or not, right? I mean, it's like the stars are there whether we are alive to observe them or not. It's the fact that we're alive to observe them that helps us to learn about them, study them, and grow and do everything that we're attempting to do in our fledgling stages. I'm only going through that with you because I understand what you're saying. Like, there's no guarantee that justice will prevail, but there is the concept of justice and the ability to have it prevail so long as those of us who are able to observe it actively work towards it. The thing is once you have been captured by the idea of justice, the people of justice will never stop fighting. I talked about this last Friday night on the stream. We'll never stop fighting. Hate-filled people will never stop fighting, but people fighting for justice will never stop fighting. So it's about who's going to hold out the longest and keep fighting. But I agree, it's not a guarantee. But I do think it's universal in that it pre-exists us and it will exist after us. Chub Dub Dreamer, I love this, said, is it bad? I'm voting for Biden just to spite Trumpers. No, it's not bad. Jordan Tomney says, love you more, my friend. Okay, I'm going to come back to, because there are a lot of super chats. Wow, I'm going to have to keep up with them. Let me jump over it just to recognize some subs on Twitch. Amber Leela, subscribed with Prime. James is like, subscribe with Prime. Ray Knox subscribed with Prime. Dexter Chaco rated my party with 8 people. Thank you. I missed this yesterday. I'm sorry. Shout out to Dexter Chaco and everybody who rated us yesterday. I'm sorry, I'm just seeing it, but it was super late last night, and so my brain really wasn't working as it should. H James 86, thank you for subscribing on Twitch with Prime. TR Dark Storm FX, thank you for subscribing with Prime. You can subscribe and support the show on Twitch using your Prime membership. If you have Amazon Prime, you can donate $5 of those dollars to this to support what I'm doing, and it doesn't cost you any money. You don't have to spend anything. They just take it out of what you've already given Jeff Bezos. So let's all go steal $5 from Jeff Bezos and use it to support the show. I like this comment. Ben Shapiro asserts that compassion impairs your judgment. We're just taking a page out of his book. Yeah. I don't think it impairs our judgment, right? I don't think it impairs our judgment so much as not knowing when to compartmentalize it makes us vulnerable. See, when Ben Shapiro was talking about, he was saying that you won't be able to make decisions for society if you are empathetic. Like, you have to be able to make the hard choices for society. Their definition of hard choices are choices that don't infringe on the financial responsibility that the wealthy have to society. In other words, don't raise taxes on the rich. That's a hard choice. And if you're empathetic, so it is twisted. It's twisted. They think it's a hard decision to raise taxes on the wealthy. And I'm like, no, that's the easiest of all decisions. Tax the rich. They better be glad we're taxing them before we eat them. That's it. I'm not even going any further. Somebody said he posted a video at the hospital. Drop me a link to it. I don't mind seeing it. I like this. Johnny Apple I'm sorry, I don't know what platform you're on, Johnny, but I love this. He says, I'm a Jesus-friendly pagan. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm a Jesus-friendly, I'm a pagan-friendly Christian. Let's see. Let's see what else you guys were talking about. You guys have some of the great conversations. I thought this was interesting. Nash, thank you for sharing this. I saw this. Nash Latricia says, Twitter says it will suspend users who, quote, wish death after Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis. What happened to free speech? What happened to, thought police? See, these are the games that they play. There's an asymmetrical fight, and it is an uneven, thus the name asymmetrical. It is uneven, with the expectations being placed on us that we cannot operate the same way they operate. Now, again, I want to put this in context of the most powerful propaganda that goes out right now. The most powerful propaganda that goes out right now is this: that our sides are the same. We're just opposite sides of the same coin. In fact, they'll argue that, I'll even argue it for you. I'm going to give you the argument. Right now, across cyberspace, across the interwebs, there is a conservative who is doing the same exact thing that I'm doing. They're staring into a camera from their home, maybe their basement, and they are telling their supporters that they are right. And they are telling their supporters that we are the thought police and that we want to infringe on their First Amendment rights. And their greatest achievement has been them having the ability to draw an equivalence with everything that we do. And it's not them, they don't do it per se, but it's the people in the middle. It's like the undecided voters. It's like those people in the barbershops who are like, oh, they're all the same. It's like, it's all these people who sit back and believe that they are like erudite, they are more intellectual, they are woker than thou, that they are above the fray, that they are above the political noise. And they try to convince themselves, as well as everybody around them, that that conservative who's streaming from his home right now is no better and no worse than what I'm doing, is whatever you label me. Like, my communist friends label me a liberal. My liberal friends label me a socialist. My conservative friends, well, don't really have many, but they label me a communist. So I'm labeled everything. But the people in the middle who believe that there's intellectual and superiority, an intellectual superiority in the idea of drawing equivalence between that conservative who is at home right now telling his supporters that progressives are evil, that Democrats are evil. Look at them celebrating Donald Trump getting COVID. Look at how evil they are, right? That is a powerful narrative. That is some convincing propaganda. That is why so many people are not actively participating in politics right now, because they want you to believe that that conservative who is at home right now telling his supporters that that they are right, conservatism is right, and Democrats and progressives and liberals and communists and socialists, that we're all evil because we are not being empathetic with Donald Trump getting COVID. Those people in the middle are like, oh, they're all the same, and I can't tell the difference. Okay. We have to break through that propaganda. And the most important place for us to break through that propaganda is in our own minds. It is vitally important that you carry the confidence of your conviction. And here it is. The fundamental difference is what we are fighting for is good, it is just, it is righteous, it only makes sense, it's for the good of humanity, it's for the progress of civilization, and it's for progress that does not come at the expense of everybody else. Remember, I said there will always be people who want to get the same self-actualization. They want to ascend to the top of the mountain. They want to get on top of society and look out and realize their greatest dreams and their greatest aspirations. They want to become the fullest manifestation of their own humanity. They want to sit on the pinnacle of human existence, but they want to do it at your expense. They see the collective humanity as an obstacle that has to be overcome for them to be victorious. That is the individualism that is taught in America and that is at the core of conservatism. Now, conservatives are not inherently bad. And I and none of you are inherently good. But what we fight for puts us on the right side of the universe. What we fight to attain is right, is objectively good. We may stumble, we may make mistakes, we may have some policies that we didn't do right, we may have to tweak some. We are not inherently going to be correct all of the time, but that doesn't change the fact that what we're fighting for is right and fundamentally different than what they are fighting for. So the person that is conservative at home talking to his 1,884 supporters right now, telling his audience that Democrats are fundamentally wrong, that leftists are fundamentally evil, they can think that they're right as much as they want to think they're right. The people in the middle who are undecided and they can't tell the difference, I don't care what they think. You know why? Because when we cut down to the core of what we are fighting for, I am fighting to make sure that every single one of us has the ability to rise and has the ability to achieve and to get to the pinnacle of our humanity, and not at the expense of everybody else, but alongside everybody else. Capitalism in this American system is designed to benefit a handful of people and allow them to reach the pinnacle of humanity at the expense of everybody else, and that is fundamentally wrong. Without question, we are different and we are fighting for different things, because I'm not looking to enrich myself or my own humanity at the expense of billions of lives. I'm looking to enrich billions of lives at the expense of our greed. I felt that one. I felt that one. That was pretty good. Hey, back at you, Circle Strats. You're a liar, I see. I mean, if you say so. But you can't. Lisa Nichols says exactly. You can't look at the core values. You cannot look at the core philosophy and honestly say that we're the same. You can choose to say what I believe is wrong, but you can't say what I believe in is fundamentally the same and just the opposite side of the same coin, right? Because what they're fighting for is individualistic, selfish, and the attainment of achievements at the expense of others. It's quite literally in our economic theory. I got my bachelor's in economics. It was an average school. It wasn't like I'm not bragging on my pedigree. It was just an average school and an average degree. But the thing that stuck out to me is that every single economics course, both on the bachelor's level, and I started on my master's in economics before I switched to international relations, but even on the master's level, every single thing is rooted in the same Chicago school style economics. Chicago school is the Chicago University. Is it Chicago University? It escapes me. But it's a particular style of economics that is rooted in laissez-faire capitalism. And it's rooted in what we can generally say today is neoliberalism. It's rooted in the idea that the free markets can solve everything. One of the fundamental concepts that is taught on the most basic undergrad level is, and it's been like 20 years, so I'm not going to call it exactly what it is. I'm not going to get the name right, but I can describe it. One of the fundamental things that they teach is the last dollar. They set up the entire principles around the idea of how do you get if a consumer only has $1, how do you get that dollar from them? And you design your models around that concept. It's not the only concept, but it's one of the most fundamental concepts. And I'm sitting in class with my socialist self, and I'm like, why are we designing an entire system around how do we take a person's last dollar? Why would the theory that we create, and this is the building blocks, like this is the most fundamental. It gets complicated and more complicated from there. It just gets far more advanced than that. But in the very entry level, year one, the very thing they teach you is, how do you take a person's last dollar? Any system that is built on exploiting the very last dollar out of billions of people is inherently wrong and inherently destructive. So while all of my friends who are in the mushy middle, who cannot decide whether I'm equivalent to whatever conservative analog is doing the same thing that I'm doing right now. Let's see how far we're going down. Who's talking to 1776 of his supporters, telling them that socialism is wrong and evil and capitalism is this and that. No matter how much people who are undecided can't figure out that there's a difference, and they try to make us the same and try to say, oh, conservatives are just as bad as liberals or bad as communists. All at the core of it, what we're fighting for is fundamentally different. And we're fighting for the collective good versus what they're fighting for, the individualistic greed. Somebody said, look at his surroundings, the fruits of capitalism. Not really. Not if you think about it, right? This is just well-framed efforts to create a presentation that is aesthetically pleasing, right? It is the fruits of effort. But I was doing this same exact thing when I was making no money. You can go back to when my camera looked like it was from the 1950s on a big orange wall in my bedroom in a space so small that I was way too overweight to be in that little tiny space. And I was saying the same exact thing. The difference is that I did not need all of this to be saying the message that I knew was fundamentally true. What you're seeing is the fact that there are people who hear what I have to say and they agree with it and they support it, and we can grow it. That happens in any economic system. If I were to have waited until the point where I could have an HD camera versus the little $99 camera that I had saved up for to get from, so that I could do video, my very first video 5 years ago. If I had waited until I had this, then I would never have had this. And this is nothing but a well-framed picture that I've discussed plenty of times. I just moved those roses over from the other counter so that I could have some nice color popping. I mean, what am I supposed to present myself as, a poor man? I mean, I'm not rich, but bitch, I'm barely broke. Shout out to anybody who knows that line. Who said that? Ain't filthy rich, but bitch, I'm barely broke. Ira says, you're absolutely right. Presentation means a lie, and Trump's presentation is horrible. Right? Let's be real. Like, part of the reason some of you stopped on the video is because of the stream quality is just like, it's popping. Come on. That's why I'm wearing a nice shirt. I was getting ready to come out here in a t-shirt, and I'm like, I just want to chill. But I'm like, you know what? Presentation matters because we're trained to look at presentation. There's nothing wrong with presentation. So I picked up the floor over there, my kids' toys. I moved the roses over there. I moved out of my my home office, and I came into this space that looks so, hey, you stopped. Some of you stopped the first time because you were like, hot damn, that's a clean ass picture. I know what I'm a professional. I've been doing this for a while. But I started, go look at my first videos, man. Go look at my first videos when I had like 5 viewers. And the whole point is this, is that the message was being said before I made a dime on it. So you can't credit capitalism with this. Shit. Let's keep going. And watching 720p. And what's crazy, I didn't even realize this is actually streaming at 1080. I thought I was streaming at 720. I'm actually streaming at 1080. Why would we not present our very best? Especially when they want what they want. Y'all keep sending in donations on Super Chat. Keep subscribing with your on Twitch with your Prime. Keep becoming patrons, because what they really want to do, the real motivation behind that comment. Thank you for saying that, whoever you were. I forgot your name that quick. The person who said, look at the fruits of the capitalism. Not the last commenter. Thank you for the last comment. The real motivation behind those types of comments is to say that there is no progress without capitalism. And it is to trick us into thinking that we can't have any type of success without capitalistic greed, which is a damn lie. Because most of us, our true selves, what we would really be doing in society, is not rooted in our greed. It's not rooted in our ability to pay our bills. It's rooted in something that is innate inside of us that is not allowed to flourish in our society, because they have got you captured in this capitalistic system, running around like a chicken without a head, trying to keep up with your bills. So the reality of it is that you cannot realize the real potential of your greatness because you just got to pay the rent. And so what his comment is actually trying to do is to shackle me. But brother, I've been set free a long time ago. I have been set free so long ago from infantile logic like that and basic trolling. Like, man, like, I could put your comment on the screen and we can all be blessed by your ignorance. And that's what we're getting ready to do, right? The point is what he's trying to do is to shackle me into saying, oh, success equals capitalism. So if he's successful, then he's actually a capitalist, which means that socialism isn't right. And what I'm trying to tell you guys is the reason that you are struggling from check to check, month to month, just trying to make ends meet, is because our system needs to keep you there. And unless you are lucky enough, because quite frankly, I have been tremendously lucky. I call it blessed, right? I have been tremendously blessed. And if you are not like obscenely talented, because let's just call a spade, I'm good at what I do. All right. I'll pat myself on the back. I'm arrogant, whatever, but I'm good at what I do. It took me being inordinately talented, inordinately lucky, blessed, depending on what you believe. And it took unbelievable hours of work just to get here with 1,700 viewers. And this ain't even big. I got my friend David Packman does 35,000 viewers. Okay, so this is small, but it's plenty for me. I'm excited, but I just want to put it in perspective. It's like I have not arrived anywhere. This is still part of my grind. This is still part of me doing work in the day and at night doing this, right? But the point is that it's still to get this, even this frame shot that looks like it's so luxurious, but it really isn't. I mean, come on, y'all. Like, this is like, I've seen these comments in the comment section a couple times, but come on, man, this is a basic house in the area that I live in, right? And I know it's a beautiful home because I've lived in some really small apartments, and I'm just glad I'm living in an area where it doesn't, where this costs less than my last apartment cost. All right. That set aside, it should not require someone working obscene hours, 18 hours a day for 5 years, being ridiculously talented and getting obscenely lucky / blessed for us to have a simple life like this. My contention is that everybody who's on the opposite side of this camera and the billions of people who are not looking at this, my contention is that everybody should have this. Everybody. And we generate enough wealth in our society to ensure that everybody has a baseline. Maybe you don't want roses. Maybe you want carnations. I don't. Maybe you don't want a big ass column right there. I don't particularly like that column, but it kind of frames it good. Maybe you don't want the whatever color this is, but everyone should have a baseline, everybody, of somewhere to live, food to eat, clothes on our back, an education through college, and a doctor. We make enough wealth in our society where every human being, certainly in this country, but I argue on the face of this planet, to collectively we create enough wealth in this society for everybody to have a basic place to live. So please, I think I do my best when people say stuff like that. So if the trolls want to, maybe I'll make a column, David, my producer, if you would make a column on the spreadsheet that I check and put in the comments from the trolls, because I need them to understand that what they meant for evil, we're going to turn it around for our collective good. So keep saying all y'all little stuff, right? And I'm going to show you how your ignorance can be a blessing for everybody in the audience. Now, let's go out to the shout outs. Dr. Funkadunk, subscribe with Prime. I appreciate you. Texton is gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Shout out to Texton for that. And he brought on board Melty Drail, Noble Raid, Danny Rude, Rosie Cheerios, and Outsider 9. Thank you. Lily Bart, subscribe with Prime. AOC 202X, subscribed at tier 1. And Return Null. I wonder if that's your name or if that's like actually like an error. I guess that's the point of the name. Is subscribe with Prime. Again, you can subscribe with Prime and we can take $5 away from Jeff Bezos. You don't have to pay a dime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can support this stream by going to Twitch and becoming a Prime subscriber. Let's read some comments. I want to catch up on all the comments. Ben Shapiro, this is the first one. H.G. Wells, we said that one. Ben Shapiro asserts that compassion impairs your judgment. We're just taking a page out of his book. We talked about that one. Nefti Borico says they're Trumpers side, the hospital. I'm not sure I follow that one. You're saying they're inside the hospital or outside the hospital? Ethanos K. Dennis. I got it. God will give Trump appropriate punishment. Leave it in his hands. AOC 202X said, get the Ben Dixon show on Twitch. Well, I guess that's what I thought I was doing here. Are you talking about the podcast? You're talking about the podcast. Everyone, you can go and get the free podcast, 30 minutes. It is fully produced, cut down to the second, and we cover the politics. I don't usually get into the esoteric stuff. I just cover the news from an esoteric perspective, but it's definitely more covering the news. Peach Bus, thanks for the Friday night stream, Ben. Much love from Houston. Shout out to Houston. I love Houston. Got family there. Andrea M on YouTube sent the super chat in saying it is what it is. It is. Micah Gelfin on YouTube said huge layoff at Boeing's 28,000 plus coming. 20,000 plus layoffs at Disney recently, just to name 2 companies. All this talking about recovery seems completely divorced from reality. I'm going to put a pin there. And David, I want to leave this one here because I want to talk about that in a second. So don't delete that one. Thank you for being real, Ben. Tracy Spall on YouTube. Thank you. Lisa B. Thank you, Sam. You drinking grape juice? Trump still sucks even in the hospital bed. It's not like his campaign stopped. Misinformation, they still putting out ads right now, even with Joe Biden pulling negative ads. They are. They're not going to stop. They're not going to be. But no, that's not grape juice. That's a little fruit of the vine. Mark Gordon sent in a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Mark. Andrea, it is what it is. Tully Domino sent in a super chat for $4.99. Thank you. CMT63 said, did you see the confirmation hearing video that has Al Franken interviewing the SCOTUS nominee a while back? Everyone should Google it. You have to see it. I'm wondering how you can get that to me. If you can get that to my producer and David send it to me in a text / DM, I could take a look at it. And actually, David, just look at it and see if it's something we should talk about tonight. Tully Domino sent another super chat. Thank you. Zolter the Magnificent said, so This COVID is not a hoax, huh? No, it's not. Jordan Tomley, Ayadarola. Now listen, I thank you for the super chat. I wonder if John Ayadarola ever realizes that I've never said his last name. It's because I have a hard time with his last name. From TYT. Chalk, CHAAC, said leftism is not about poverty. Absolutely right. I mean, I could have cut all that I said and just say that. Leftism is not about, socialism is not about poverty. Rejection of greed is not about poverty. It is an attack on poverty. It is to say there should be no such thing as poverty. It is to say that there's a baseline of living that as we progress as a society, everybody in that society should progress with a baseline. It's to say, let's get science fiction ridiculous, right? There's some movies that are about this topic. Let's say that in the future, we have the ability to extend life in perpetuity, right? We can live forever. Capitalism is going to say, whoever can afford it can live forever. Socialism says, if this is where society has progressed to, it would not have progressed there without all of us. So this should be available to everyone. Right? Let's take it out of the science fiction realm. If science says we have the ability to heal X, Y, and Z, capitalism says only if you can afford it. Socialism says, well, you know, we all got here together. You literally would not have made this accomplishment without the complete and total support of everyone in this society in one form or fashion, especially an organized government. So to that end, everyone should benefit from it. It's not about poverty. And again, it's funny how these titles, I'm going to be sure to everybody in the audience, like, titles are almost meaningless to me. Because while I may identify as a socialist, my socialist friends pretty much all think I'm liberal. My liberal friends pretty much all think I'm socialist. My conservative friends pretty much all think I'm a communist. And my communist friends are like, Ben, listen, we like you, but bro, you are just entirely too liberal. So I don't really care what you call me. I don't really care what I come off as. I'll call a thing. Like what I'm talking about is rooted in socialism, but it's not, but more importantly than any of that, it's right. I don't care what you personally identify as. You know in your heart that what I'm saying is right. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Money Lou says, love you. Keep doing what you do. I appreciate you. Thoughts on why? This is from Aaron B. Said, thoughts on how long after Trump is gone before they start sanitizing his image? They're already starting to do it. He's not even gone yet. Appreciate the late night specials. They're almost therapeutic. Here's hoping they continue. Solidarity. Stay bold. Stay safe. Thank you, Bruce. And I thank you for that support. DP says, love your content. Such intelligent conversation. Please keep it up. It's my pleasure. Mary Beth O'Neill says, I still think Trump is an evil jerk, but I wouldn't wish COVID on my worst enemy. Let's get angry at the right double standard, but not do the same. We slightly disagree on that, but I definitely understand your sentiment. Nick Dodson said, can we talk about the serious concern of increased white supremacist terrorist attacks for the foreseeable future and if there's a solution? We could do that. Let me just go through a couple more super chats and we'll talk about that. This is the content I'm here for. Love you, Comrade Ben. Thank you, Adrian Levixen Noir. John Darnold said, narcissist altruism exists. That's because it's genuinely best for us all if we all do better. So truly selfish people literally hurt all of us. Without question. Greed, I'm not going to go on a long rant. Greed will be the destruction of our species. Not just the destruction of capitalism, not just the destruction of America, not just the destruction of organized states. Beyond that, greed will be the destruction of our species. And we've created an entire economic system that's rooted in greed. Nelson's Rudolph. Nelson, I've known you for some time. I remember that your handle for a long time. Denmark, Norway, and Finland, yes. Cuba and Venezuela, no. Well, we could debate that. Reverend Donna said, check out Cry No More video. Thank you for standing on your convictions. My pleasure. Nelson's Rudolph has another question. What's the difference between free enterprise and capitalism? If you're talking about the jargon, nothing. The rhetoric, the political rhetoric, when they say free enterprise, they're talking about unfettered capitalism. There's no difference between that in terms of the rhetoric, but enterprise can and does exist outside of capitalism. Infinite Content said, Ben, I want to do a basic math up to pre-calculus and general chemistry podcast with a political pod. Your advice on basic podcast software and mics. I think I should start doing some of those, like doing a behind the scene on how do you get a camera that looks like this and how do you get audio right. I would definitely say literally any podcast, any recording software except for, what's that free one? Audacity. If you're looking to start a podcast, do not use Audacity. Anything else from GarageBand, Fruity Loops, all the way up to Adobe Audition and Pro Tools. I've used them all. All of them are just as good. Get the cheapest one that you can get except for Audacity. I hate Audacity, and it doesn't give you the ability to edit the way that you need. In terms of microphone, my first microphone that I used was a Blue Yeti. The company name is Blue. The microphone was a Yeti, Y-E-T-I, and it was a great sound for like $300. They're probably much cheaper now because that was 5 years ago. That's where you would start. We have to network. This is from Dragon Squad First Class with a super chat. We have to start and organize to help each other. Absolutely. Jesse Dollamore, thanks for your spirit and work. I appreciate you, man. First of all, thank you for just being here. Jesse is dope. Jesse has a show and a really thriving program, a huge YouTube presence and Twitter presence. He's a star in these spaces. So thank you for hanging out, and definitely thank you for your contribution, man. I really appreciate that. Let me see more questions. See you later. Blessings and mommy. I want to make sure I put that. Did that come up on the screen? Let's see. She says she had to go. Thank you for hanging out. Yeah. This is great. This is a great comment. Tyrion said, off topic, enterprise does exist outside of capitalism, like NCC 1701. My favorite is 1701E. 1701D is a great enterprise, but 1701E actually I think was the sleekest enterprise. Great nod to anyone who likes Star Trek. Lori knows Jesse Dollamore, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, so I'm just gonna say Jesse. Wait, who has a Zen Master says he has a Neumann just sitting there? Would he have a Neumann? This is a microphone. Neumann microphones in production. I used to try to produce music when I was in high school and in college. I used to want to go to New York and work with Diddy. And a music producer's fantasy microphone is a Neumann U87. Now, so what do you have, Zen Master? Is it a Neumann TLM 103, or do you have a U87? Because you have a U87 that's just sitting around there. I might have to break quarantine and come have a chat with you. Bellogino said Conway is positive. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be. Like I said last night, I think it is 1492 people still with us after an hour. Yikes. Was it 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue to bring imperialism and colonization? But anyway, yes, Bill Phillips, Neumanns cost a small fortune. And I just want to say for the record, no matter how good this picture looks, I still cannot afford a Neumann. All right. So now if somebody just had one, and Death and Destruction talking about Columbus. Yep. Ben Phillips is really a producer. He says just use a mic emulator. Oh, we're getting and disease. You see, you guys got me all over the place. I'm going back from talking about music production and microphones to Christopher Columbus bringing his diseases. I love this nighttime chat. I love it. Where else could you go from Star Trek, so meta that we're talking about the registration of the ship, the ship registry, NCC 1701 to NCC 1701E, all the way over to a Neumann TLM 103 microphone or U87 production microphone, all the way to 1492 and Columbus bringing his diseases. This is wild. I love it. Sam Gordon says that the snowball mics work with Audacity. Snowballs are great. I'm going to be sure, like snowball microphone. I don't want to turn this episode to a production episode, so everybody hang on. Just the last thing. Snowball microphones are actually really quality. Audacity is just more difficult to edit. It is very difficult to do linear editing compared to other software. All right, let's get back. I need some context for this. Says, give me some context, somebody. Forget nice, one down, 53 senators, and however many Congress people to go. Did somebody pass away while we were doing this episode? All right, let's read this. I think there are many folks on here that need to learn what socialism is. If I have to put my title on myself, I would say progressive. That sort of equates to socialism. Learn before you post. Socialism came close in this country once, but capitalism reigns. The rich dominate and the poor middle class work to stay afloat. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the fact that the majority of you listening to me right now are probably one paycheck away from homelessness. When your work in whatever you do, whatever your work is, your contribution to society is sustaining this society. It's generating the wealth. So in exchange for your contribution to society, which is you are a variable. You are an input. You are an input to the wealth creation in this society. There is no wealth that is generated. The wealth would be just a little bit less if you weren't here. So you have value far beyond your job description. Yes, you have value far beyond your contribution to the society. And that's the thing for me. I go beyond most everybody else because my interest in you is your contribution to society that transcends wealth. There's stuff that you could do for humanity that is much more valuable than wealth creation. But what you're currently doing is helping to create an immense amount of wealth, and all you get in return is living paycheck to paycheck, stress, debt, death, and bills even after you die. My contention is this, is that the greed of man really makes them myopic, and all they can see is the immediate opportunity for their own enrichment and self-aggrandizement. And their immediate greed makes them oblivious to the fact that we have no idea of the type of achievements and accomplishments and wealth and type of society that we can grow out of people not being constrained to being nothing more than a cog in this wealth creation machine, living paycheck to paycheck, underworked, overworked, underpaid, overstressed, exploiting you and squeezing the last bit of life out of you, the last dollar out of you. They're all scrambling to see how they can get the last penny out of you. because they myopically can only see their next quarterly profit margins. And they can't see the forest for the trees, because on the opposite side of their greed, if they would reject just a portion of their greed, if not all their greed, there is so much more humanity can achieve that would blow our fucking minds. But they can't see that, because all they see is their immediate greed and that next quarterly profit margin and their second yacht and their eighth house and their fifth mistress. And that's all they can see. And so we have a system that, instead of maximizing the masses, it exploits the masses so that a handful of oligarchs can be maximized. And then they're not even being maximized themselves. They're not actually, going to the pinnacle. What they're doing is they're going to the pinnacle of greed. They're not going to the pinnacle of humanity. They're going to the pinnacle of greed. Thank you for that comment. Here's a number from Kai Gaga. The blue check left is mad weird. September 30th, Donald Trump is a racist, fascist, and unfit to be president. Fast forward to October 2nd. Please keep the president in your prayers. Crazy. It's wild. See, for me, it was kind of superstitious, because I didn't want to put out into the universe having joy over his demise, his potential demise, because I'm trying to survive COVID-19. So for me, it was really like, I think it was selfish. I was like, I just want to not wish bad on him, because I don't want anything bad to come back to me. I believe the universe is like a boomerang. Spiritual and religious sense, I believe you reap what you sow. I try to translate everything I say in different languages. I try to say it in a religious context because I am religious. I try to say it in a kind of a humanist, kind of secular context because I am a humanist. And then I just try to say it in a whole different lot of ways, but it's all the same thing. It's literally all the same thing. I believe that you reap what you sow. So I didn't want to throw that out into the universe because I'm trying to survive COVID. I'm trying to get my whole family and all my friends. I want all of you to survive. So I don't want to throw anything negative to the universe. But if we just put it raw on the table, if there's anybody on this planet who absolutely, without question, has earned COVID-19, I don't wish it on them. But if there's anybody in the universe that has earned it, it would be the man who downplayed it, leading to the deaths of 205,000 Americans. So they are weird. I don't know their rationale. I know my rationale was I don't want to throw anything negative out and have it come back to me. But at the same time, in my communications with all of you, I need to make it abundantly clear. We have no requirement to give mercy to people who would be merciless to us. We have no requirement to be kind to people who are cruel and revel in our misery. We have no requirement to be above the fray with people who would weaponize our empathy to harm us. In fact, we have a requirement to be able and mature enough to understand when our empathy and our kindness is being weaponized against us, cut off the spigot of our love, compartmentalize our kindness for a little while, put it behind us, and fight like hell. Fight like bats raging out of hell. And when we can be kind, we'll go back to being kind. But when they have demonstrated that they will weaponize our kindness against us for the detriment of humanity, then we got to cut that off. And we got to fight these bastards like our lives depended on it, because it does. Yep. Who's knock? I appreciate that. 200,000 Americans gone, but we have to be civil. Pamela. So I love Pamela. Me and Pamela go way back. Pamela is the matriarch of the Progressive Army. She was the first person to work with me on my Project 5. If anybody can tell you, about how You know, I've gone from an orange wall to some nice vanilla kind of yellowish walls and progressed on my quality camera. It's Pamela. And I love what she said. She said discernment. We have to have discernment. We have to be able to tell when our kindness is being used to harm us. And we have to be mature enough to say, okay, I have no requirement to continue being kind to you. In fact, it is justice for me to return your evil with my own ferocity. It's only appropriate for me to return your evil with my ferocity to bring your evil to an end. Thank you. Somebody, oh, I got a lot of descriptors here. Mango walls, buttercream walls. Shout out to Pamela. Somebody gave a shout out to I am 007 says to the coffin dancers. Have y'all seen that meme of those guys who dance with coffins? It's wild. Don't y'all do that for me. Stand back and stand by. Love it. Yes, yes. Dante said yes, yes. Discernment. You need that for real. You absolutely do. Is K Smith? Is this Kimberly Smith? I'm just curious. K Smith, is that Kimberly Smith? Everybody's like, hey, back to back. Somebody says the coffin dancer song is unironically slaps though. And right behind them, EBN said that song slaps. Back to back. Here it is. That's why I love Michael Brooks so much. He said, as Michael Brooks put it, be kind to people, be ruthless to institutions. My only addendum to that is be kind to people, but when you can't, be willing to be ruthless, but don't forget you're doing it because you're kind. Somebody has to fight for good with the same ferociousness. That's the word I'm looking for. Somebody has to fight for good with the same intensity. I'll work my way around a particular word I haven't decided I wanted to use. But anyway, let me start seriously. Somebody's, multiple, all of us, we have to be able to fight as intensely for good as they fight for greed and individualism and selfishness and exploitation and inequality and racism and white supremacy. Like, look at how hard, and not just, we don't stop there, and homophobia and transphobia and Islamophobia and patriarchy, misogyny. Like, they are literally willing to go to civil war so that they don't have to change all of this framework that is detrimental to everybody except a certain subset of people and their collaborators of color. Right? They're willing to go to civil war. They won in 2016, and how do they respond? By going to Charlottesville and killing Heather Heyer and marching to the streets screaming, Jews will not replace us. They won in 2016, and this is how they responded. If we are not willing to fight as ferociously for good as they are willing to fight for bad, then what my friend said earlier in the chat, while justice may be universal, it does not mean justice is always going to win. And the way justice fails is if the people of justice, those of us who are fighting for what is good, if we prioritize being kind over bringing a just society. It doesn't mean to be cruel, but it does mean to understand the nature of the moment. It does mean to be willing to sacrifice a piece of your kindness in order to save. You gotta be willing to fight to save your family. You got to be willing to fight to save your friends. You have to be. What good is your kindness if your kindness can't pick up your rhetorical or literal arms and fight on behalf of those you love? Here's the radical thing about love. Here's the most radical. Here's what makes an empathetic person possibly the most dangerous person on the face of the planet. Is when you extend that empathy on a systems level. When your empathy goes beyond your immediate family and you're willing to fight on behalf of everybody who's marginalized with the same intensity you're willing to fight for your family. And all I'm saying is that I don't think it betrays your integrity. No, I know that it does not betray your integrity for you to be willing to fight evil as viciously as evil fights good. We got 10 minutes left, folks. It's 11:30. Just reading comments here. Zen Master, I am absolutely not going to forget that we're going to connect offline because you said you have a Neumann laying around somewhere, and I'm just, I got on. Everything looks like I can afford a Neumann, but I can't afford a Neumann, so I'm gonna get at you, dog. I think you said something about Instagram. Hit me up. Hit me up. There it is, Quinn. This is what I love. This is. I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound extremely ignorant in a second, but it's not. I love this. Quinn Keitel says, like Cornel West says, justice is love in public. Now, here's a really ignorant sounding thing that I was getting ready to say, but I don't think it's ignorant. I think because Abraham Lincoln actually made a quote about it. He said, books serve to show young men that all of their bright ideas have already been thought of. What I love is that when I haven't read, and I haven't read as much as I should, and I have all these things in my head that I think are brilliant, and I feel like, wow, I'm coming up with this, and I brought this out, I'm just bringing this down. I love the fact that I find out that somebody else has said it in a book that I probably should have read. Because to me, that's like mutual discovery. Like I'm in my silo, and I've had seasons in my life where I didn't do anything but read, right? And it's obviously great, right? It shapes, it literally forms new synapses and just like the connections, and it's just brilliant. But my life has been, since I got married and started having kids and stuff, like my life doesn't lend me a whole lot of time to read as much as I used to. And what I love is when I'm sitting around, I'm just sitting and I'm thinking, I'm like, aha. And then I say it on my show, and then somebody in the audience will like, yeah, this is exactly what somebody said in this book and there. And I'm like, damn, I thought I could. But it's mutual. It's like a mutual discovery thing. Like I'm in my silo and I think of something and I'm like, wow, that's brilliant. And then someone else has already thought about it, but that's just confirmation, right? It's confirmation that one, you're on the right track. So it's not ignorant, but it sounds ignorant because I'm basically what I'm saying is I don't have time to read right now. I did read, I cannot pronounce this man's name. His book won, I think he won a Nobel Prize in literature. And his book, Never Let Me Go. I actually make time to read fiction now, but I don't read theory anymore. I don't read. I guess I got tired after my PhD program. And I started having kids. But I try to make time to read some fiction. So there you go. Some people are saying goodnight. Cool. Yeah, I think this is a good place to call it. Hey, okay. So, in other words, yes, there's nothing new under the sun. That's it. We're all pulling from the same place. We're all pulling these brilliant ideas from the same place. We're pulling it from our humanity. We're pulling it from the universe. We're pulling it from whatever you credit for our greatness. That's really what it is. Is like I think that's like the big difference between belief systems and or whatever. If you credit the universe for our greatness, then fine, we're pulling it from the universe. If you credit God for our greatness, then we're pulling the ideas from God, whatever your interpretation of God is. If you believe that humanity is our greatness, then we're pulling it from our humanity. But we're all pulling it from the same place ultimately because we're all coming up with the same brilliant ideas, separated by time, separated by physical distances. You know, we're all pulling and that's the greatness that is inside of every single one of us, wherever you credit. I don't personally care who you credit. I tell you who I credit all the time. Y'all know I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, right? But I'm really strong on the potential and the greatness of humanity. I believe that we pull it from we pull it from this gift that we have been given called consciousness. We pull it from that space and we compare notes and we realize we've all been thinking the same thing for a long time. There's nothing new under the sun, which suggests to me that there is a roadmap. There's a roadmap that is in every single one of us that points to our collective greatness. But how could we ever, one, put that puzzle together, two, see where that roadmap leads us, and three, ever start the journey on that road? How can we ever get there if we are burdened down with the system that exploits the last dollar out of us and is more interested in how it can make obscene wealth for a handful of people at the expense of our collective greatness? There's nothing new under the sun. And because there's nothing new under the sun, that tells me that we are all pulling these brilliant ideas from the same source. And because of that, I believe that same source is trying to tell us that there's a roadmap to our greatness. But we can't even begin to put that roadmap together because these greedy bastards have to hit their quarterly profit margins. Good night, folks. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. Talk to you soon.